deal and heal, deal and heal. I was talking to my moms yesterday, and we were just talking about, as I get older, I'm trying to stay closer to my kids. Just have it where they know, we got an open line of communication. Because being a little vulnerable here, but what happened with my father was, I hadn't seen him since I was 9, and maybe heard his voice in the background once when I was maybe a teenager, maybe 13, 14. But I got a letter in the mail one day, and it just wanted me to verify that this man was my father, and it was saying that he died. And the last time I saw him physically was when I was 9 years old, and he I'm gonna share with the world, he kidnapped me, and then tried to keep me away from my mom. And at that time when that letter came, I just got flooded with all these, like, oh my God, I wanted to know he had grandchildren. Now, my father was very high in the military intelligence field, so he probably knew he had grandchildren. Probably might know him, might have been watching me or surveying me or whatever, but man, I was just like, all these questions I gotta ask him, like, why was he this way with moms? Why was this and why was that? And why did he teach me all these tactics as a 5-year-old? And it's like, why? It's like I'll never get those questions answered. And so I was telling my children that I don't want that for them. And I told my moms that same thing, like I was telling the kids that I don't want that for them, man. They need to know that I'm always available, that I'm here for them. And my mom said, yeah. She said, she said he had mother issues. She's like, then my second husband had mother issues. And she said, and I tried to be a good woman to them. And she said, your father only got in line with his father got in his butt. And, she said, yes. She said, they never dealt with it, son. She said, that's why, she said, I knew you were different, because she said, as a young man, you always dealt with whatever you had going on. She said, she's like, you may have had something flow through you, whether it was anger, whether it was this or that, but once it was brought to your attention and you looked in the mirror, she said, you dealt with it. And she's like, I watched you as a little kid achieve and conquer so many things within yourself, not outside in this world. She said, within yourself. And she's like, I watched you grow to be this person. And she said, it was one day I looked at you, and she's like, and I came to hear you speak somewhere, and she was like, and you was saying these things, and she's like, I'm looking back like, this is my teenage son saying these things. And she said, you learned early on to deal and then to heal. And she said, and people don't know that it may have taken you a while, and they don't know why you quiet, you healing, or you dealing with things. She's like, but she's like, I always knew as your mother. She said, I always knew as your mother. And she said, I would watch you. And she's like, and I could just see you thinking all the time. And I told her, I said, man, Ma, I said, even with guys that I mentor, or people that I may talk to, I said, I tell them, they gotta deal with those demons. They gotta deal with things. You gotta take those things, put them under your foot, put a chokehold on them, and let them know that, you're not the boss of me. You're not gonna rule me. I'm not gonna be carrying something till I'm in my 30s or 40s or 50s. And it's like, you gotta deal with them. Deal and then heal. Deal and then heal. Deal with them and then healing. And healing is a process. A lot of people think it's easy, to just say things like forgive and forget and, and heal. It's like, if someone tells you to just heal, then, it's like they haven't walked through that journey, because healing takes time. It takes time, and it takes a lot of alone time. It takes dark hours time. It takes early morning time. It takes that 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, waking up at 4 and 5, getting on your knees, finding humility, feeling like you scared, being terrified. It takes that. Healing is a process. If you can heal in the blink of the eye, man, God bless you. But it's like, healing takes a process. It is a real process, because the thing is this. If you think you got it figured out here, something's going to come along to let you know that you're not done yet. Something's going to come along to stick you and shock you, like, oh man, now I'm thinking of this, now I'm feeling that. And that doesn't mean that the thought can come. It just means that when it does come after you've healed, you've already developed callous soul, callous spirit, callous mind. You've built up coping mechanisms to where when it comes, your emotional intelligence says, I ain't trying to hear that, shutting that down. So it's that thing where you don't want to carry all that for the rest of your life. If you put everything that you've gone through and you take on this, I'm a victim and this and that and my mommy and my daddy and it's a lot of people who's had very, very, very worse situations. You may think your situation is terrible, and it could very well be terrible, but there are a lot of people. All of us have gone through something, some ups and downs, but it's those of us who put that bag down and be like, yo, I'm not carrying all that shit no more, man. I can't do it. I can't do it. And meanwhile, while you carrying these bags of rocks and sticks and everything for all the pain and sticks and stones and, they didn't, they may have broke your bones or maybe they didn't. What you carrying it for, who you may be carrying for, maybe living their life, not even thinking about it, not even owning up to it, not even caring, and maybe they are walking around carrying a little bit too, and you got to find that person, y'all got to make amends, and hopefully you'll be able to do that. And if you have the opportunity to do that, try to do that. Deal with it, then move towards healing. Deal and heal. Gotta learn to do that. It's important. It's vital for your survival. It's vital for your mental space. And a lot of us, we distract ourselves with things. We distract ourselves with faith and religion and church and mosque and synagogue and temples and working out and martial arts, and then you look up and then that thing happens that brings it right up in your face to let you know what you running from. You still running from me. You still hiding from me. So I really want everyone to not just move towards healing, but fight for your life. Fight for your life, because you don't want to get older and be carrying things. And here's the kicker, what my mom told me. She said, well, both of my husbands, died early. She said I don't think either one of them made it to 60. She said, well, your father, he definitely didn't make it to 60. And she said, and then, my second husband, she's like, he was 6 years younger than me. So she's like, he definitely didn't make it to 60. And she said, and if they would have dealt with what they had going on, she said, maybe they'd still be able to be here. And she's like, well, she said, wherever they are, she said, all I know is that I try to be a damn good woman. And she said, God bless. And she said, I'm just grateful that, you at those times chose to learn from those experiences and chose to be better and be a man and be a protector at 7 or 8 years old, because that's when it happened. But yes, I really want people to focus on fighting for their life, man. Fight for your life. Put that bag of sticks and stones down that you're carrying, and unfortunately, if a person isn't right, keep them at arm's length. You wouldn't let any stranger run up and attack you if they didn't catch you off guard. Don't let your demons, don't let the people who you love and care about run up and attack you. And stay aware. Stay aware. Because once you get to that point where you're growing and healing, the energy around lets you know what's going on. You can go in a room and just know it's not right. You can go in a room and just know that, man, I need to move around. This ain't the space I need to be in. Deal, then heal. Deal, then heal. Fight for your life.